Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Out of respect for your time, and the fact you guys are all here at 6:30, I want to reward you. It's very rare in Los Angeles to be punctual, so I do appreciate that. My name is Alec Tuckman, and I'm from a company called Providence Financial. We have a radio show on 870 AM. I highly recommend you check that out. We discuss issues just like Social Security, things like RMDs, retirement accounts, and again, a wealth of information. Definitely take care of that. So I start with a question. How does one go about setting a strategy for claiming Social Security? Do we go online? I did a search this morning on Google for Social Security. Guess how many results came up? 337 million. Do we go to the library? Hundreds of thousands of books probably written on how to claim Social Security. Do we lean over to our coworker in the cubicle next to us and ask what they did? Knowing, I hope not. I hope not, for your own sake.
But you usually ask a friend.
Well, knowing that they could give you a wrong answer could cost you conceivably anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 over the course of your lifetime. So that being said, maybe she's trying to cheat you money. So that being said, we want to make sure we have a strategy in place that's going to make sense for us as individuals. There are literally hundreds of ways to claim Social Security. Like I said, by not claiming the right way, you could be leaving $200,000 to $300,000 in, let's say, a 30-year period as a couple on the table that should be yours. Where are these people going? They're all going to the Social Security Administration office. Guess what that 10,000 number is? 10,000 is the number of retirees each day. 10,000 people retiring on a daily basis. Guess what 180 stands for? That's the number of phone calls that the Social Security Administration office receives from those retirees. So as you can imagine, not due to the fault necessarily of their own, but they are a bit overwhelmed. It may not give you the answers you probably crave. And that is why it's important we look to someone, a professional who's been through this hundreds or thousands of times, who knows what they're doing and can look after you and take care of you, whether it's me or someone else, who can shepherd you along the way. Before we get going, I'd like to have everyone mute your cell phones, refrain from eating if you don't mind, drinking is okay. And this wouldn't be America if there wasn't a legal disclaimer. The issues we're going to be talking about based on my education experience, we're going to be talking about general concepts. They may or may not apply to you. I do not represent you at this time. So keep in mind that, again, we're talking about generalities. Now, on that note, I'd like to say if you have questions, due to a finite amount of time that we're working with, the library needs us out at a very specific time, earlier than I anticipated. So we're going an hour, and I want you out of here at an hour, okay? So at the end of the hour, we ask some questions. As we start falling out, people will have to leave and trickle out slowly. That's fine. If you have questions, go ahead and stay behind. I will stay as long as I can without getting kicked out. So if, again, we can hold the questions till the end, that would be phenomenal. And I've noticed about 90% of the questions asked are usually covered once we get through the presentation. So first I'd like to talk about Providence Financial, the company I work at. They started in 1999 at the end of a bull market, a roaring bull market. If you guys don't remember, the 80s and 90s were an amazing time. If you threw a stone, you would probably make money, especially with interest rates being where they were at that point. So we knew the party couldn't last forever, and that's why we decided to take a step back and reevaluate things. And we knew that even though things were going strong, things would end soon in terms of the success and the track record that we had had happen. So we were correct in that assessment, and we've been very successful. We've taken a very defensive strategy. The people that come to us are about consistency in income. They're not looking to become mega wealthy. They want to keep the closest thing you can get to a guarantee. They want consistency in income. They want to make sure, regardless of what the stock market does, whether it's doing poorly or it's doing well, they're going to see income coming in. Now we're about 10 minutes away, and I may have mentioned, well, I mentioned a couple of you before, we have a deal with the library. And with that deal, we're offering our services free of charge. Normally we would charge $200. But as I mentioned before, we're talking about generalities today over the course of the hour. If you want to come meet with me on a one-on-one, we're going to give you the opportunity at no cost. And that's going to be able to, as long as you sign up tonight, even if you don't have your calendar, you can go ahead and denote something on the paper and say, I need to get back to you after I look to my calendar, and go ahead and set a time thereafter. and I will waive our fee. Now, there are a lot of reasons you're going to want to talk to us. As you're going to see very, very quickly, the devil's in the details when you talk about Social Security, and there are a lot of details. Once upon a time, your parents could go to the Social Security Administration office, file, and they'd have a check coming to them ASAP. It doesn't work that way anymore. Now it's gotten so complicated, you're required to, well, not required. You need to use software to figure out the best way and the best strategy to claim your Social Security, to maximize those benefits. It has gotten that complicated for a variety of reasons, and we'll discuss some of those later on. So a little bit about me. I came on this financial scene, my first job was in 1994 on Wall Street. I lived in New York. My parents are economists, award-winning economists, and my father actually went on to work at Fordham University as the dean of the business school there. And just so you know, I'm a fiduciary, meaning your needs have to come before my own. We take that very seriously. And anytime you work with a financial professional, you want to make sure you are working with fiduciary. I practice what I preach. I invest literally in the same tools that I recommend for my clients. And I'm a big believer in education and transparency. We take the time, rather than shove you in a particular product like a broker who's a sales professional, trying to shove you into a stock, for example. We explain our choices. We try to explain what we do in simple language. I don't say dumb it down, but we make it very simple for you to understand. And we go through a process where it's going to make sense. We get your feedback, we ask you questions about what we recommend just to see how you feel. It's not just about your risk tolerance. There are a lot of factors that come into play. We require a snapshot of where you are in terms of your investing background, where you are in life, do you have kids, are you married? All those things are quintessential elements to dictating how you should make a move forward. So before we begin, we want to talk about a housekeeping item. You've received a folder. Did everyone get your folder? It's up there in the box. Did everyone get the folder? In this folder, you'll have my business card. You'll have our company brochure. You'll have instructions how to claim and access your Social Security information online. And we'll also talk about that in the PowerPoint. Also, you'll have something called the client information form, which is going to be, again, if you do decide to come in and see me, it'll give you a snapshot from me, almost like an x-ray when you go to a doctor. Again, before you go have surgery, you want to get that x-ray before you have the surgical procedure, because you want to know what to expect. Your doctor has to know what's going on. The same thing applies when I use this questionnaire, the client information form. That way we have a better sense of where you are, where you're coming from, and where you need to go. There's a presentation outline, so if I go too fast or too slow, you go ahead and just jump notes. You can leap around. Feel free to peruse through that outline. Finally, we have the feedback form. And it looks a little like this. This is extremely important both for you and for me. It's important for me because I need to know what you like, what you don't like. We've been doing these things for years. Every single session, we strive to do a better job. So it's important I get your feedback. Furthermore, I need to know if you want to meet with me. If you do, there's an area below. Again, I've blocked out the next 2 weeks. Let me know what's convenient for you, and I'll try to work with your schedule. Right? And again, if you notice, I do work weekends. So if weekdays are not convenient, I can work within your schedule. So today, I'm guessing you probably want to know one of these 5 questions, if not several of these questions. They are, will Social Security still be there when you're ready to claim? How much are you going to expect to receive? When should you apply? How do you maximize those benefits? And will it be enough for you to live on? The last one is pretty simple. Probably not. So let's jump right in. Social Security, a lot of people say, oh, I'm just on Social Security, right? They kind of belittle it. Well, there's nothing to belittle about Social Security. It's a pretty powerful vehicle. For example, if you have $2,000 that you're going to receive as your benefit, if you stretch that out and do the calculation over a 10-year period, that's going to stretch and equal about $300,000. At 20 years, you're looking at $600,000. And at 30 years, that's about $1.1 million. So again, when someone says, I'm just on Social Security, don't belittle that. To have the same interest off a set principal in an investment somewhere with 4 or 5% return, to get $2,000 out of that, you're probably looking at about $500,000 or $600,000. So again, Social Security is a very powerful tool. Social Security COLAs. What are COLAs? We're not talking about the Coke. COLAs are basically cost of living adjustments. So what happens is you see a bump in your PIA. We'll tell you about your PIA is just quite simply your benefit. So you'll see a bump in your PIA every year if there's an inflationary year. That's about 2.7%. So if you have, for example, you start off with approximately $2,000, in 10 years you'll see that jump to about $2,600. At 20 years, $3,400. And at 30 years, you can expect it to be about $4,400. So again, they're adjusting for inflation. You're not set at a particular benchmark like a $2,000 payment. So let's tackle question number one. Will it be there for me? So quite simply, the answer is yes, right? But there's a caveat to that. So has anyone received any statements so far from Social Security? I see you raise your hands, okay. Do they still have in the, I think, bottom left-hand corner, whatever, a little disclaimer saying that it'll be insolvent in a certain year and show a graph? Is that still there?
Yes.
It is, okay. So the way it's going, you're not going to see Social Security go away for a while. Since its inception, so people have been saying Social Security is not going to last. And that was in 1934. So that being said, they've done things since its inception to preserve the integrity of Social Security. Once upon a time, if you didn't know, they said that Social Security was not going to be taxed. Guess what happened in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan came into office? It was taxed. And then guess what happened in the Clinton administration? It was taxed some more. So you can point Republican or Democrat, but the fact is they did that again to make sure it's going to be around. So as we look here, we see the trust fund balance is at $2.8 trillion, right? It's still profitable. The income generated has been $957 billion. Now, right now as it stands, 1 in 6 individuals in America are receiving some form of Social Security. That being said, right now, it's about, the last time I checked, it was 61 million we're taking in, and 171 million we're paying in. Does anyone know the number of the people that were paying in when they first started Social Security? It was 43 people paying in to 1 collected. Guess what it is now?
3 times.
3 to 1.
Is it
Guess what they're going to expect in a couple years? 2 to 1. 2 to 1. So while we think it's going to be there, it will be insolvent if we keep going with no intervention from Congress in the year 2034. Now again, as I mentioned, since its inception, they have continually done things to raise the bar, to make sure it's going to be there. What are some of those things? Well, they can increase the taxation amount, the amount that you're able to be taxed on Social Security. 2016, it was about 118. This year, it's about 127. So they can keep raising those thresholds. Meaning, if you're Bill Gates, or even if you're a guy off the street making, let's say, $200,000, you're still going to be taxed at 127 threshold. They can also raise the retirement age. Right now, depending on when you were born, it's around 66, 67. They can always bump that up. They can do several things like lower the benefits, they can lower the cost of living adjustments, and I guarantee you at some point they probably will do one or many of these things. But it would be political suicide for any senator, any congressman, any president to let that happen on their watch. And for that reason, I can tell you, none of them want millions of seniors with walkers and canes picketing on the front right steps. So that being said, you can count that they're going to do their best to keep it intact. If you could please hold your questions to the end, I'd really appreciate it. Yes?
127,000, what is that?
That's the maximum you're allowed to be taxed. That's the most you're allowed to be taxed on for Social Security. So if your paycheck is $130,000 or $250,000, the most they can tax you, your FICA, is going to be $127,000. So, what's the bottom line for baby boomers? The good news is it probably won't affect you guys. For me, it may affect my generation, it might affect Generation X, it'll probably affect the baby boomers, it probably will affect my kids. But that being said, you guys should be in the clear. That's the good news. You're going to turn to page 2 for those who are following along. How much can you expect to receive? Well, it boils down to 2 different facts. Number 1, how much you're going to earn over your working career. It's an average. The second thing is what age you're going to apply at benefits. So let's dive in. This is the only slide where you're going to have to really learn a lot of industry jargon. Hi, welcome. If you want to take a packet, some water now, go ahead and do so. If you please could sign in. So how are they calculated? Quite simply, To qualify for Social Security, you're going to be required to work at least 10 years or 40 quarters. That's just to qualify for Social Security. At age 62, that's when your earnings are really tallied, and that's when they start to do their math. They take, on average, your top performing, highest 35 years of working, and then they use that to come up with something called your AIME, your average income monthly earnings. So they're going to come up through a formula, which we're going to show you in a minute, and that's going to give you something called the PIA, your primary insurance amount, aka simply your benefits. That's what you see on your paycheck from Social Security. So the government sees a specific age with you in mind based on morbidity tables, right? So they're going to take into consideration something called your FRA, your full retirement age. That's again when the government sees the appropriate time for you to retire. So we talked about COLAs already. That's the cost of living adjustments. That's the bump you're going to get due to inflation. So this goes to show you the government can do nothing easy. They take a very complicated process and make it complicated. Sorry, very easy process and make it complicated. Give you a hint. This is how they deem your FRA. So if you're born, for example, in 1957, you qualify as your FRA age at 66 years and 6 months. Conversely, 1960 and older, you're looking at 67. That will change later on. Again, this is one of the ways, if they want to preserve the integrity of Social Security, they'll move this forward and they'll say, okay, if someone was born in 1965 or 70, then you're looking at maybe 68. Again, pushing things back. Does anyone know what the average, how should I say this? Does anyone know what you were expected to pass? When was the longevity rate for a male and female just a couple years ago? Does anyone know?
55?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
When did the insurance, okay, so the insurance companies contribute to the morbidity tables, right? When do you think they expect, when is your life expectancy for a man and a woman? What was it a couple years ago versus what is it now?
It's different for a person's age relative to where they are now, or to an extent. Like I'm 80.
Think simple answer.
75.
Okay, so it used to be for men, late 70s, for women, early 80s. That's actually been changed as of last year. Now men and women are looking to the mid-80s. That being said, we're seeing people live now to hundreds. They're projecting the babies born today will live to their hundreds as an average lifespan, and it'll be par for the course to live up to 120. So when we take that into context with Social Security, what does that mean? That's more of a drain on the system. And that's again why they'll have to do several actions, several little steps to make sure we preserve the integrity. So, for those of you that are numbers people, you're getting really excited because we got lots of those for you. For those of you that aren't numbers people, you can mentally tune out for this slide. I am a numbers person, I love this stuff, so this is the nitty-gritty. Let's take, for example, someone who was born in 1954, and they've worked since the age of 22 consistently. After doing the math, your AIME will be about $9,000, or $9,400. And what they do is put this through an algorithm with 3 bend points. Now they have these bend points, which basically is done because they want to weight Social Security in favor towards the people that aren't high earners. It's skewed towards people that are not making a lot of money. So when you put them through the 3 bend points, you're looking at the result, which is your 2787, which is your PIA, your insurance amount, which is what you'll receive for an average amount for the worker, right? So how do you estimate those taxes on your own? Well, you have several options. You can come to me and I can help you. You're going to go to the Social Security Administration online. There's the domain. Or you can go ahead and call up. Be prepared to wait online. They have a lot of phone calls coming in. Or you can also go on your license. You can go online and do it yourself and log in. There is a caveat to logging on. So if you do come in to talk to me, make sure that you go online first and print out your statements. It's crucial that I have your statements if you want me to help you. That being said, like major organizations and institutions, Social Security has had issues in the past with hacking and privacy concerns. So as you can imagine, they have pretty tight security. One of those security challenges that you may face is logging on. They're going to ask you 3 questions to remember your password, right? Once you log on and establish your identity. So in doing so, if you forget, make sure you write that down. If you forget, it will automatically lock you out. And the only way to get back in is to go to the Social Security office and have it unlocked in person with ID. So while it's good for your privacy concerns, it's extremely inconvenient to wait there for 4 hours as you go through this process. So let it be known if you have your Social Security questions as well as your password and username, write them all down. Otherwise, you could be looking at a very long wait at the Social Security Administration office. Did you want to get a photo? Okay. So what happens if you apply early? Well, you are allowed, again, if you don't want to apply your FRA, say your FRA is 66 for the sake of this demonstration, you can always go in early at 62, in which case you'll see a drop in your benefits. You're looking at, on average, about 6% less each year between the age of 62 and your FRA, which let's say is 66. So for example, if you're age 66, and you claim at 64, you're looking at 86.7% of your FRA paycheck, which you would have made at that appropriate age. Conversely, if you were at 67, for example, you waited to age 65, you would make 86.7%. Let's say you want to wait till after FRA. If you want to wait till after FRA, your full retirement age. You're not in a rush, you can wait, you love working, and you want to take later on. So you can expect delayed credits, and you'll look at about 8% on average per year that you wait, up to 7. Again, we talked about this earlier, there's no benefit to waiting after 7. Absolutely claim at 7. If you can hold your questions, I appreciate this, it's super important. Okay. So the longer you're able to wait, the more money you can make. So that first reason, just in terms of a rehash, the first reason to delay, you get better checks. Again, for example, if you're looking at your FRA, assuming it's $27.88, you're looking at significantly more, 3,000 or 4,000 in some cases, almost 4,000 if you can wait. The second reason is consistently the money will be higher, the checks will be higher thereon. So it's not about that big first initial check, it's consistency in higher income. If everyone wants to turn to page 3. Now let's talk about spousal benefits. Spousal benefits. Spousal benefits are benefits you get simply for just being married. When they came up with Social Security, and by the way, does anyone know what industry helped the government come up with Social Security? It's one of the few industries that was doing well in the Great Depression, which is when they invented Social Security, or OSADI, as you call it. The insurance industry, one of the few industries that was doing well at the time. The government saw that the people who were working hard to build this great country were suffering, and they wanted to do something to reward, or at least protect, have some kind of safety net to help these individuals. So the government went to the insurance agencies at the time and said, what can we do to help the workers? And they came up with AOSDI, which turned into Social Security. So that being said, back in that time, the tradition was the man would go out to work, and the woman would stay home with the kids, clean the house, and so on. They were the housekeeper. That was our society at that time. That was the mentality. So that being said, they didn't want, for example, a wife who would work hard doing her due diligence with the family to have to suffer if the man were to pass. So they came up with these spousal benefits. Quite simply, the woman, if she worked, has a choice of either claiming her own, or she can decide to get half of the primary, as we'll call it hereafter, or the husband's in this case. So again, a woman or a man, there's the primary, who has, let's say, 2,000, and then there's the beta, the B, the secondary, which will be 50%. So 2,000 and then 1,000 in that particular example. Joe would be 2,000, Julie would be 1,000. So, what are the rules? So you had to have been, you both have to would have been the primary would have had to have filed for benefits. You have to be at least 62, and there's no delayed credits on spousal benefits after your FRA. Right? So that's super important to know. Now let's talk about divorce spouse benefits. It's ironic because guess who just passed on today? Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner, the creator and legendary Playboy. I've been using this example for years, and it was kind of a shocker that of all days that today that Social Security. We do several presentations. We do estate planning, we do Social Security, RMDs, so it's funny that today I'm doing this.
How old is he?
91?
Yeah,
Passed
he had
at
a long
91.
life.
So with this example, we're going to talk about ex-spousal benefits. So in this example, we have Hugh Hefner, who a lot of people know. He was married 3 times. He's divorced twice, and I think he was still married when he passed. So conceivably, what happens is, as an ex-spousal benefit, if you were married 10 years, right, and you divorce, as long as you have that 10-year track record, you can receive benefits off your primary, your ex-husband. Now, if you were to remarry, you lose that opportunity. You are now latched on, for lack of a better word, to a new primary, right? You with me? So conceivably, you could have an individual, let's say it's Hugh Hefner, who married and divorced literally to 5 different times, and all 5 of those exes would be entitled, again conceivably, to ex-spousal benefits, as long as they were married for 10 years. So that being said, you can file as an ex, and your primary would not have to know it all. So they are not required to know. It does not affect them. It does not affect their current spouse. It is not going to affect the other ex-spouses. So divorce spouse benefits rules. You have been ex-spouse again for 10 years. What else can I say? It doesn't affect the current people, as I mentioned before. And it stops upon remarriage. So again, if you're going to marry, make sure you marry up, because you're not going to get that same level of income. You want to make sure it's going to behoove you. And that's why you see a lot of seniors who are getting older, they just live together indefinitely. They don't want to get married, because if they know, I mean, just because you love someone doesn't mean they're going to be a higher earner. Why should they have to suffer if that's the case? Next, we're going to talk about survivor benefits. So if the primary was to pass, you basically are entitled, as a step up, you can basically receive what they were making. So let's take an example. Joe and Julie both were at full retirement age, and we'll see the caveats to that in a minute. Joe's at $2,000. Let's say Julie was at $1,200. Joe dies. She has the opportunity to step up at $2,000. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is, at that, before the deceased passes, they are generating, in this, for example, at $3,200 a month. People stop to realize they don't anticipate or they don't plan, you will be losing part of that income. So it's something you have to anticipate and plan for, because that will drastically affect your monthly income. Now let's talk about a reduction. Well, actually talk about benefits, depending what it depends on. So it's going to depend on, again, your age and when they pass. So it's very important that if people can wait to collect, it's going to behoove the survivor, right? Not just for spousal benefits, but not just for yourself as a primary, but for your spouse as well. So let's take an example of early claiming to prove that point. So Joe and Julie are married. Joe's $2,000. Julie gets, let's say, 75%. Let's see. This example, okay. So she should be specified. So if Joe files, assuming Julie has not filed. Joe files. He's going to file early, so he's only going to receive 75% of the benefit. So what would normally be $2,000, he's now only collecting $1,500. He passes. Because he claimed early, and Julie's survivor benefits step up to claim, she'd be looking at only 71.5% of $2,000, which is going to be $1,430, right? So if she were to wait to her FRA, which is 66, she can make 82.5%, a little bit more, of that $2,000, which is $1,680, right? Sorry, $1,650. So it behooves the primary to wait in this particular instance, not just for himself to claim more money, but also for the survivorship reasons. Is that clear? So let's talk about delayed claiming. So if Joe's at $2,000, he can wait and delay to age 70, in which case he's looking at 132% of his PIA. Again, no reason to wait after 70 to collect. If he waits, he's looking at 2640 as his PIA. If he were to pass, Julie's survivor benefit would be 2640 because of that step-up basis when he passes. If she were to claim early, let's say age 60, you're looking at 71%. So you're at, instead of 2640, you're looking at 1887. So you are able to claim early at age 60 or even at age 50 if you are disabled and have a disabled child. So that's something you want to talk to me on a one-on-one basis. Very important. So what are the rules for survivor benefits? Well, the couple must have been married at least 9 months. And there are three important, that's a good thing to mention. So there are three important dates that you need to know. For marriage, it's 1 year. For ex-spouses, it's 10 years. And for survivorship, it's 9 months. Survivor benefits, you must be at least 60, unless 50 for disabled. And the benefits are not available if the widower remarries before age 60. Again, when you remarry, you're looking at reattaching this of different binary. And then the survivor benefits available if the marriage lasted at least 10 years. Turn to page 4, please. The next big question, when do we apply? Several factors are considered here, and this is the hardest of answers, because unless you have your crystal ball, which you need to run out and buy at Best Buy as quickly as possible, then you're going to have to take into consideration things like health, life expectancy, genetics, diet, your lifestyle, survivorship needs. So let's talk about when to apply. So it's not just about waiting a long time to get longer benefits. I had a client come talk to me in my office a couple months ago, and we had the same discussion about Social Security. And he said, okay, I can wait to 62 and claim early, or I can wait to 70 and get the maximum benefits. Well, if I'm 70, can I really enjoy the money? I mean, at that point, I'm not going to really want to travel or have fun. So I might as well just take it at 62 and have fun and travel and do the things I wanted to do. So conversely, you could think, well, if I want to maximize those benefits and make sure that I'm taking care of my wife, for example, and she's going to be getting the max amount of income possible, then you may want to stay. It's a very, very specific question to your particular needs. And one of the many reasons you need to come in and talk to me and see me in the office and figure that out with me and the software we're going to be using to find that out. So when do we apply for Social Security? What are the key points to remember? So just in a nutshell, let's rehash. So when you apply earlier, you're going to get less income. You have COLAs that are going to help you maximize and increase based on inflation. And the decision will impact in terms of survivorship when you decide to claim. Please turn to page 5. So this is the real meat and bone. This is the potatoes of the presentation. Let's talk about maximization of your benefits. How can you possibly make the most amount for Social Security? So the first one is to check and improve your earnings record. Before you do anything, you want to go online. If I have homework for you tonight, or even tomorrow, the first thing you want to do is go online. You saw the website, have the instructions, do it as soon as possible. You're going to be looking for the work track record. Keep in mind, there's an individual, a live human being, that inputs this on their end. People make mistakes. It is not uncommon to see many in error, actually not too many, but to find errors. For example, I was meeting with a client about 6 months ago who we were going over his Social Security statement. We looked, the very first thing we did was we looked through the work record. He found a bunch of zeros. And I asked him, did you work those years? And he smiled because he goes, yeah, I did work those years. And he knew he was going to make more than he saw on the written page. So again, you have a human element here. Make sure you double check and double check. This is a